royal congratulation for Stanley Matthews and a winner's medal at long last are fitting rewards for the most dazzling sportsman in world soccer. The Queen waves a last farewell to the crowds as Harry Johnston and Stanley Matthews take the cup to Blackpool.
Everybody was focused on this cup final. The whole nation was focused. And if you didn't come from Bolton, they wanted Blackpool to win.
Probably the most memorable FA Cup final that's ever been.
It had every element in it. It had the comeback, it had Blackpool having failed twice previously in recent years, and everybody thought it was probably Stan Matthews' last opportunity to win that, the only honour he'd never won in the game.
With Matthews, I suppose people thought it was his last chance to win an FA Cup medal, because in those days the FA Cup was the cup, wasn't it?
On the 2nd of May 1953, Blackpool and Bolton lined up to contest the FA Cup final. The game that followed would go down in history as one of the most memorable sporting events ever staged at Wembley. Two great Northwest rivals combined to make this match extraordinary. 7 goals.
The ball goes to Nat Lofthouse. He shoots. Farm fumbles, and it's a goal.
An amazing fight back.
Stan Morrison has a slam. And in it goes.
And the only hat-trick ever scored in a cup final.
Mortensen takes it. He's done it. It's in.
But beyond all this, it was one man's moment. At 38 years of age, the greatest English player of his generation defied his years to play the greatest football game of his life. This was his final, his finest hour. This was the Matthews final.
She wears red feathers and a hooly skirt. She wears red feathers and a hooly skirt. She lives on just coconuts and fish fur on the sea.
1953 was a great year to live in Blackpool. It was the entertainment capital of the North. It had vibrancy, colour and a brilliant football team. It all came together on the terraces at Bloomfield Road.
And they really did, in those days, used to pass the kids over the crowd's head so they could sit at the stand at the front. And I used to be within probably 10 yards of the immortal Matthews.
In fact, it was so crowded that we used to sit round the running track and even, believe it or not, on the sort of edge of the pitch.
Everybody wanted to watch Blackpool. And of course, when Matthews signed, as I say, in 47, 48, then that made it even more so that they wanted to watch them. But they were such a good team.
From the end of the Second World War, Blackpool had become one of the best sides in the country. Manager Joe Smith, a former England player himself, had assembled a team packed with internationals for only £50,000.
Well, the team are very good. I would have thought, really, that Blackpool could go to any ground and compete.
They were a very strong team, and for about 5 seasons during the same 10 years from the late 40s to the late 50s, Blackpool were the biggest drawing visiting team in the country. Wherever they went, they drew the biggest crowds.
Yes, we have no bananas. We have no bananas today.
Blackpool's atomic boys, as they call them, were very much in evidence, together with their ducky little mascot, for the semi-final against Birmingham.
The free-flowing football the Tangerines played provided entertainment on the pitch. Their fans created their own entertainment off it. Led by their ringmaster, Sid Beavers, an eccentric band of football supporters known as the Atomic Boys followed Blackpool everywhere.
The famous Sid Beavers and the Atomic Boys, where before the match, this crazy guy in tangerine Arabian robes used to stride to the centre circle and place a duck, a live duck, dyed tangerine on the centre spot, and the whole place erupted.
The Atomic Boys had to be actually seen to be believed. They were made up of all sorts. I mean, so one of them was actually a clown from the circus.
The Atomic Boys, called them. He's still around, is Sid, but minus the duck.
I thought these boys were good, colourful, good characters. Some of them were blessed with, gifted with fun. And I thought that was the most fitting name, and it stuck.
This group were famous. You know, there was nothing for them to go dressed as a bull, one at the front, one at the back, you know, and acting doing the matador on the field, all kinds of stuff. Oh, they were a bit more than just funny, you know, they were quite polished, some of them.
But the ducks, well, leave the ducks out. I once rang Danny Baker on the radio and told him we used to have a live duck following Blackpool, and he couldn't believe it. I had to recount the story. It took all morning on his radio programme. Cut me off in the end.
When I inquired about taking the Atomic Boys on, I always used to say, are you bringing the duck with you? And so he became, in a way, famous. The duck was in demand. We called it Puskas, and Puskas sent us a photograph of himself, and with the permission that he was honoured. Anyhow, that was the duck.
The two biggest stars in Blackpool's lineup were the two Stanleys, Matthews and Mortensen, two completely different characters who developed an instinctive partnership on the pitch. Stanley Matthews was the archetypal right-winger. Nimble, skillful and quick, he took delight in outwitting his markers. They knew what he was going to do, they just couldn't stop him.
Matthews was the man we all respected as the greatest footballer. You know, I describe him as the man really who took the game into the modern era. He was into training and diet, you know, physical fitness. He was a phenomenon. Phenomenal.
He was a mesmeric player. You couldn't take your eyes off him, and I've never, maybe George Best, you know, is the nearest that's ever been to that since. But the trouble that people used to go to actually get to football matches where they got an opportunity to see Matthews play.
He really was a fantastic player, Stanley Matthews, and he was a ruthless player. He wanted to destroy that fullback. Stanley
Matthews just had that charisma. He just had that presence, and it tended to take most of the attention wherever Blackpool went. It was usually on Stanley Matthews.
At the end of his crosses, there was always Morty, the complete centre-forward. Brave, passionate and dynamic, and alongside Bolton's Nat Lofthouse, the fiercest header of a football in the game.
He was a bit of a one-off, really, because our local paper, the Gazette, used to describe him as electric eel. You know, he was like a slipping all the time, sharp as a needle he was. And he wasn't very big. He'd be about 5'9", something like that. 11 stone, not much more. He was always getting knocked all over the place. But somehow he had an inner strength and brave. Oh, he was so brave, it was unbelievable. And the one thing he read, which everybody forgot, was he was terrific in the air. Terrific. Not good, terrific.
A pass to Mortensen, and it's in the net.
He scored a lot of goals for England, also scored a lot of goals for Blackpool, and he was that sort of archetypal sort of English sort of forward, wasn't he? You know, hustle, bustle, and slam it in the back of the onion bag if you got the chance.
He used to have a saying, you know, he'd open the door, never fear, Morty's here. That was one of his favourites, you know. When he came into the dressing room, the whole place lit up.
The whole country wanted Stanley Matthews to pick up his Cup Winners' medal. It was now or never.
Matthews and Mortensen were about to make history. For the very first time, the nation sat down as one to watch a cup final live on television. What they were about to witness would live in their memory forever.
The Duke of Edinburgh meets the boys from Blackpool at Wembley before their cup final battle with Bolton Wanderers. From the royal box, Her Majesty the Queen watches the Duke shake hands with the white-shirted Wanderers who are making their 4th appearance at Wembley. Here are goalkeeper Stanley Hansen and Bolton's inside left Harold Hassel, ready and waiting for the great kick-off. Princess Margaret takes her seat and Blackpool, facing a slight headwind, kick off. Now Bolton get going smoothly. Hassel collects and passes. The ball goes to Nat Lofthouse. He shoots. Farm fumbles, and it's a goal. Bolton have drawn first blood within 90 seconds.
I had a lot of admiration for that. Regular scorer of good goals, tough as hell.
He was one of my heroes, was George Farm. But when you see the first goal again, how the heck that got in? He dived straight across Lofthouse's shot in the first minute. So that was a bad start, wasn't it? 1 down in a minute.
Bolton keep up the pressure, and Blackpool defence seem far from confident now. Blackpool back, Garrett sends it up to Lofthouse, who shoots, but it hits the upright. In comes Bill Moyer, but he too cannot penetrate the defence. Moyer, Fenton and Goalie Farm scramble for it. But Fenton gets it out of danger. Blackpool swing into action again and are soon down by the Bolton goal. Stan Morrison has a slam. And in it goes. Blackpool have got the equaliser.
The first goal, really, that he scored was he struck the ball with I think it was his left foot running in, and I think it hit Harold Asselt. He was a good player, played for Bolton. It hit Harold and went in the goal.
Now Stanley Matthews takes over. He passes, but there's no goal this time, as goalie Hansen clears it away and starts a Bolton counter-attack. Eric Bell, who injured his leg earlier on, gallantly struggles after it and manages to pass it back to Langton. Langton shoots, but Farm makes a good save, and Blackpool breathe again. Bolton have looked the better team right the way through the first half. In the Blackpool goal, Farm faces a shot from Langton. He and Lofthouse miss, and there's another one. Bolton are 2, Blackpool still 1.
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, same thing happens to every goalkeeper. And you ask Barthez and all the rest of them. And probably Jersey Dudek, he'll tell you the story.
Into the second half, and Blackpool begin to show some of the skill we expect of them. Stan Matthews is after it, and off he goes with a dazzling display that proves he's as good as ever he was. As he centres, Mortensen gets out of the way to let Perry shoot, but it's wide of the net. Now the Wanderers get their forward machine moving again. From the right wing, Douglas Holden centres, and despite his injury, Eric Bell heads it in for Bolton's third goal. 3-1. Looks all over for Blackpool.
We all had a sinking feeling. 3-1 behind with 20 minutes left.
It did change, gradually change, you know. Matthews was getting the better of the defence. You know, you could feel it. It was coming. It's going to come. But 3-1, have we enough time?
No team had ever lost a cup final after scoring 3 goals. No team had ever won a final after being 2 goals behind. The dream seemed over. Matthews' elusive medal was slipping through his hands for the 3rd time. Blackpool needed a miracle. 1953 FA Cup final had reached its turning point. The 38-year-old Matthews' astonishing performance was about to reach its climax.
It all changed in the space of about 5 minutes.
I thought, oh well, maybe that's it. I think that's Blackpool had it, but Matthews changed it all. He changed it all.
While the game itself may not have been the best game that we've ever seen at Wembley, I think the last 20 minutes, without doubt, are the best 20 minutes that people have ever seen at Wembley.
I remember, particularly when we were getting beat 3-1, and I had to send kick the ball off in the middle of the field again, and I thought, my God, we've been here twice, we've lost twice. This looks like being a hat-trick.
As unworried as ever, Matthews sends over a beautifully placed centre. Goalkeeper Hansen tries to check it, but Stan Mortensen forces it in. Bolton 3, Blackpool 2. Mortensen's hurt his right leg, but wild horses couldn't keep him off the pitch at this stage of the game.
Stan Matthews crossed the ball right to the far post, and Stan Hansen went up and he dropped the ball, and I managed to scramble it in. It hit the studs on the boots and it went into the net.
The main thing with Stan was he anticipated he just might drop the ball, and he was there at the base of the post to put it in. A lot of centre-forwards wouldn't have even bothered, just turned the back from not Stan Mortensen. He was always ready for the kill.
Morty, as he always did, he was a bit of a hunter, and he always got involved in melees in the goal mouth, and he just happened to get his foot to it and pushed it into the back of the net. So that meant that we only had at least 1 goal to get to make things on even terms.
So 3-2. Well, we're getting nearer, and not long to go. I said, if we get an equaliser, we'll go extra time. We win. We must win.
Douglas Holden leads the Wanderers on an offensive. Up near the goal mouth, Lofthouse gets on with the good work. Lofthouse centres, but Goalie Farm is there to deal with the situation this time. His clearance upfield sets his teammates on another attack. There's a foul. One of the players took quite a knock.
We got a free kick very late in the game. Noni Taylor picked the ball up, and I said, give me the ball. And he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to have a crack at goal. I put the ball down, and I walked back towards away from the goal, and I saw Big Eddie Schimmel running up the park to the far post. So I thought in my own mind, I'm going to chip this ball to the far post, and Eddie will probably get his head to it. So when I turned on again to run to the ball, a Bolton Wanderer player had gone off one end of the line to the other end of the line, and I could see the post standing right up alongside these players. And I changed my mind, and I took one of those 1,001 chances, and I just cracked the ball.
Wham! He's done it. It's in. Blackpool and Bolton are on even terms with 3 goals apiece.
The third one, that is just something that there was no swerve, no nothing. He put the ball down, he saw space, bang.
I think he just took a chance. Like he said, he took 2 paces back and leathered it in. David Beckham, eat your heart out.
In those days, you didn't bend balls around the free kick. You hit it as hard as you could and hope that somebody would shift out of the way. And that's what happened with Stanley Mortensen. He smacked this ball and it went straight line up, I think, the wall opened, and it flew into the top corner. So that was 3-3, and of course, then it was pandemonium.
Matthews again, giving the game everything he's got. In the Bolton goal, Hansen gets ready for work. The great little wizard has it again. A flick to centre finds Perry, who crashes it home into the Bolton net. Blackpool 4, Bolton 3. There's no doubt about it now. Matthews, recently ignored by the England selectors, is the man of the match.
I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, around about the penalty spot, coming in from the wing, and I just let go with my right foot. And I was glad to see it hit the back of the net. And within a minute or two, then the final whistle blew.
It was such a beautiful thing to see. I remember it clearly. He took it up the fullback, and the fullback, trying to guess which way he was going to go. And then he dipped his left shoulder as though he was going that way. The fullback went in, but he didn't, and he turned and he went in there. And he just looked up, and he saw Bill Perry, the left winger, on inside, and he just rolled it to him, and Bill Perry smashed it in the back of the net. And 4-3, Blackpool had won the FA Cup, and Matthews had won his beloved cup medal, which he'd never had before.
You can't explain the feeling. Can't explain the feeling. And then when the final whistle blew, great. Great.
What a great reception he gets from all at Wembley as the whistle goes. Matthews in his 3rd cup final is the hero of the day. Her Majesty the Queen rises to greet the 2 teams and to award the cup. And here come the winners, gallant Blackpool, who turned what seemed defeat into one of the most dramatic victories ever seen at Wembley. Their captain, Harry Johnston, receives the most coveted football trophy of them all. A royal congratulation for Stanley Matthews and a winner's medal at long last are fitting rewards for the most dazzling sportsman in world soccer. The Queen waves a last farewell to the crowds as Harry Johnston and Stanley Matthews take the cup to Blackpool.
I'm certainly mighty pleased to win the cup this afternoon. I must say I'm very sorry for the way Bolton had to go, but we've had it twice, and I hope they'll come again.
And now Stan Matthews.
As a matter of fact, I'm just breathless.
The great man's performance had taken everyone's breath away. An FA Cup winner at last. For Blackpool, it was jubilation, with celebrations that never seemed to stop.
You're the top, you're the Coliseum, you're the top, you're the Louvre Museum, you're the melody from a symphony by Strauss, you're a band of
People who don't support football, people who were just in Blackpool because they either lived there or they were on holiday or whatever else, joined everybody in welcoming them home with the flags, the scarves. Absolutely superb.
Then we went to the town hall and stood outside, and the crowd and the... everybody should experience it. It's such a wonderful feeling.
The players headed for the town hall steps, and the crowd was silent for the man whose name has become synonymous with this cup final.
I'm told that by 1 or 2 people that I was the match winner. As a matter of fact, I don't believe that for the simple reason we have here 11 match winners.
The celebrations went on for a considerable time. They paraded the FA Cup around to various functions, and the players went and spoke there. And in fact, my dad at the time was stage manager at the Grand Theatre, and Arthur Askey was playing there in a football farce, believe it or not, called The Love Match. So my dad got me tickets, and I can still remember now Arthur Askey in his, it was like a farce, as I say, and he was sat in bed, and suddenly from under the covers he produced the FA Cup and held the FA Cup up, and again everybody was uproar and cheering. So it was quite a time in Blackpool. It was 1953.
53 was a magical year. It was the coronation, they climbed Everest, Gordon Richards rode his first Derby winner, but most important, Blackpool won the Cup.
Roger Bannister almost cracked the 4-minute mile. There was a coronation. Blackpool won the Cup, and I got married 2 weeks later.
Great times, great team and great players.
Oh, the good life, full of fun, seems to be the ideal. The good life lets you hide all the sadness you feel.
As the people ask me how I remember Stan Matthews, I always remember him with his back to me, really, you know, going away from me. And I said, probably that's right, because that's how all full-backs remember him anyway. They always remember his back, because he'd always gone past them.
It had been the most remarkable sporting occasion Wembley had ever staged. Even Stan Mortenson's cup final hat-trick was eclipsed by the performance of one of England's greatest footballers. He had his winner's medal at last.
The great little wizard has it again. A flick to centre finds Perry, who crashes it home into the Bolton net. Blackpool 4, Bolton 3. There's no doubt about it now.